Look, I got a confession to make. I love cereal, but to be honest, it's not a performance-enhancing food. Until now. Magic Spoon is a new breakfast cereal with 0 sugar, 14 grams of protein, only 4 net grams of carbs, and 140 calories in each serving. Best of all, Magic Spoon tastes amazing. There's 8 delicious flavors: cocoa, fruity, frosted, peanut butter, cinnamon, blueberry, maple, waffle, and cookies and cream. My favorite is frosted, but limited edition flavors come out all the time. Magic Spoon is keto friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, low-carb, and GMO-free. Magic Spoon is so confident in their product, it is backed with a 100% happiness guarantee. What does that mean? It means if you don't like it for any reason, they will refund your money and they won't ask you any questions. Go to magicspoon.com/Chael or click the link to grab a variety pack. Be sure to use the promo code Chael at checkout. That's going to get you $5 off your order. You know, I don't ask you guys for a lot. Is that a fair statement? Is that fair? Because I did ask you specifically to help connect a dot for me that's missing, which is middleweight. What is happening there? And even more specifically, with Robert Whittaker. There was all of this talk, Whittaker versus Adesanya. All of a sudden, that talk stopped. Middleweight is moving on with it, even in some feature positions. Darren Till versus Brunson, by example. Brunson is now proclaiming that he is the number 1 contender. Some people, Michael Bisping being one of them, have gone as far as to ask Brunson flat out. Bisping asked him straight up, are you going to sit and wait for your shot? As though it was presumed. As though this is matter of fact, your number 1 contender. The only question is, when do you pull that card and throw it on the table? Nobody's disputed that. Nobody's disputed what Bisping said. Nobody's disputed that Brunson is going to get a title shot. It seems as though Whittaker steps in. We check a calendar. We find out Whittaker versus Adesanya. You know, Derek, this is a damn long time to wait. Very few guys do, and we move on with it. But this is still the order we have to go in. Even if it's redundant and old and tiresome to have these conversations over and over, welcome to MMA. It's the same tiresome conversations. New week, put new players in. This happens to be Brunson's turn. But nobody's refuting it. That's the other piece of this. Somebody makes a claim, somebody else has to punch back. Nobody's punching back at Brunson being the number 1 contender, which still leads me to my simple question, which is what happened to Whittaker? If Brunson's going to fight Adesanya, got no argument from me, who does Whittaker fight? And sometimes you have to be able to answer multiple questions at a time. It's not as simple as just saying, okay, who's the number 1 contender? All right, Brunson's got all these wins in a row. All right, him and Izzy met up before, but it was 3 years ago, and a lot has changed, and get a little back and forth going. You still then have to answer by byproduct, who does Whittaker fight? And this is what I've come into you, and I've asked because I don't know, and I'll tell you what, I'm still not sure that we're there. In terms of number 1 contender, I think that the steam that Luke Rockhold is going to get with a win over Sean Strickland, or vice versa, the bounce that Sean Strickland's going to get with a win over Luke Rockhold, I think it's going to be massive in comparison to what many of you believe right now. That fight, Sean versus Luke, is getting more traction by the day. I don't know if Luke can do an interview that I don't find interesting. And I realize that some of the stuff that Luke does is what annoys us and makes us hate a certain person. I get it. Why do I give Luke a pass? I believe because he's a former champion of the world. I think that's my answer. Luke can do things, and Luke has the right to certain beliefs that he earned the hard way. And Luke is going to continue to get interest in this match. And you cannot beat Luke Rockhold and think that that doesn't matter. You look at the very few guys who've ever got their hand raised against Luke, it mattered. For all of them. Yoel beat him, and I believe Yoel drew right into a world title fight. Believe, off of memory. Blachowicz beat him, and I believe drew right into a world title fight. That luster's not gone, particularly at 185 pounds. And Luke could get a lot back if he gets the jump on Sean, particularly with all of the attention that these two guys, Luke and Sean, are doing such a good job of bringing to this match. And as many beautiful things as you want to say about Derek Brunson, and I appreciate that you say them all, Derek deserves that from this community. He deserves a lot of praise. But if you go look at all the beautiful things he did and you try to juxtapose that against Sean Strickland's record, I'm not sure you have a meaningful leg up. And Sean is tapping into a fan base that is growing by the day. Sean's working this whole I'm crazy angle. I don't want to bust his gimmick. I just happen to know he's a really good dude. He is. Sean Strickland's a nice guy. People like him. And there's this major buzz coming. Now, guys, my only point here is not to make Luke Rockhold versus Sean Strickland a number one contenders match. What I'm talking about is the mere fact that nobody's stopping me from that dialogue. Nobody's stopping Michael Bisping from saying Brunson's the number one contender. Nobody is stopping these things. And there's two words that should stop Bisping and I dead in our tracks: Robert Whittaker. And that's all I'm asking. I feel as though I just missed something, right? Yet all this talk and these two are going to fight, it dies off to the point that somewhere on this timeline, Adesanya's own coach made a comment about Darren Till. If Till gets 2 wins, we won't fight Whittaker. We'll go fight Darren Till. I realize that they're not the ones that get to make this decision, but the mere fact that that was on the table is giving me a clue that Whittaker Adesanya is not done. And the reason I bring that up, guys, a lot of times where you've got these really hot fights like that one, and all of a sudden you have silence, it's because the fight has been agreed to, but the organization, known as the UFC in this case, for marketing and PR reasons, have put a halt on the announcement. That comment by Adesanya's coach always has stood off the page for me. Because what that tells me is they do not have a backroom deal. They have not agreed to anything. The mere fact that Darren Till could have a magic wand waved over him, and if he gets 2 wins, he's going to be fighting their pupil, in this case, Adesanya, just tells me there isn't one of these backroom deals, which brings me right back to my same thesis and my premise. What the hell is going on with Robert Whittaker? And I don't put any fault on Whittaker. In my list, Whittaker is a top 5 guy to ever do it at that weight class. Full respect. That isn't the same thing. I'm not being disrespectful by questioning why that match hasn't been made. I'm showing a respect to Robert Whittaker. I am showing a respect in acknowledging the rightful number one contender. I am showing a respect that even if it's going to be a rematch, right? Because that's the big pushback Brunson got, in all fairness. Brunson got major pushback of why should you fight Adesanya? You've already fought once and it wasn't overly competitive. Well, you could make that same exact comment for Whittaker. It was not overly competitive, but enough time went by. And they've both got in there and they both proved that they've changed as fighters, right? The story works. Rose is getting ready to fight this young lady. Rose is going to take on Wei Lee. That fight was anything but competitive. But Wei Lee is the former champion. When she gets beat, defaults to number one contender, which means what? Which means she goes and fights the champion who happens to be Rose. Now, I only bring that to your attention because I am seeing some pushback on Brunson. This should not be a discussion that we're having in MMA. Who is going to fight Adesanya should not be a discussion. The answer should be Robert Whittaker. The mere fact that the Brunsons can go out there and start making this claim that I can put a little something extra on Sean. I shouldn't even be able to. That narrative should have been shut off. It gets shut off with 2 words, which are Robert Whittaker, to at this point in time is missing. And I'm asking you guys a second time, where the hell is he?